Hello and welcome to another live video today with me, Mr. R. Welcome to AM Language, and in today's lesson we are going to look at irregular verbs. We will start off simple and we will work our way up the ladder of difficulty, and along the way hopefully we can also learn some new words as well. So that is the idea for today. Let me just make sure that I can share this video today. 1 second. So, Sandra, good afternoon. Guten Tag. Welcome to today's lesson. I'm glad you have found the lesson. I can also find it, so that's good. That means people should be able to find it quite nicely. I hope you're all doing well and that you're having a lovely day. Arena as well, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Alida, good afternoon. Buenas tardes and buenos dias to you, Alida. Leondina, buono pomeriggio. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. It's 4 o'clock here in Malta, so I have a cup of tea. And I hope you're all doing well. So, yeah, today we are going to look at irregular verbs. We'll look at the pronunciation as well. And we'll look at, well, we won't just look at that. We'll look at the pronunciation, we'll look at the spelling, and we'll look at, again, we'll start off at a lower level and we'll try and work our way up the ladder of the scale of difficulty. Okay, right, so let's see. We've got 5 people already. We'll give people a little bit more time to join the lesson before starting. To those of you who are watching later, please fast forward the first 5 minutes. It usually takes us about 5 minutes before we can really get into the lesson. As always, guys, just a reminder, if you would like to find out how to have lessons, how to come to Malta to have English lessons with us, please always look at the description below in all of our videos. I always put the description up after the actual video, and that's where you can find out how you can join. How is the situation in your school, says Sandra. Good question, Sandra. Well, I think the situation, to be honest, is it's actually, for what the situation is, it's good. Physical lessons are happening. We don't have the normal numbers as we would normally have, obviously, because of COVID. But students who are in Malta are definitely still getting their physical lessons. There's social distancing involved, and everyone has masks or a face visor, for example. So we have all these things in place. But luckily, we are in a position to do so. And Malta has actually been a very good place to be during this period. Students can still go to the beach. They can still go to they still can go to Camino, Gozo. They can go on boats. There's quite a lot of outdoor activities that people can still do. I know some people have taken the opportunity to go camping. Malta's a good place to go camping, actually, especially when you want to wake up by the sea with the sunrise, or go to a nice country, a bit in the countryside. I know it's a small island, and some people who only get to know one part of the island might think, what, there's a countryside in Malta? I know it's a small island, but there is a countryside, and there certainly is some good places to go. Sunset can be really nice as well. There's also Gozo as well, and Gozo is a lovely place. Sandra says you have to take the mask also in the classroom. Yes, you do have to take your mask into the classroom with you. The teacher will always be wearing a visor, Now, the student themselves can wear a visor, um, and it's a little bit more comfortable than a mask. I would say in terms of wearing the actual mask in class, at the moment, due to the number of cases going up in Malta, uh, students students ended up wearing the mask in class as well. It does probably make a little bit of a difference depending on the size of the class. Full size class, people naturally felt more comfortable to leave the mask on. Um, but like I said, if the mask is not for you, you do have the option of the, the visor. And I would say when it comes to lessons, the visor, the head visor, where you can see through, is definitely more comfortable. And that's why most of the teachers prefer to wear the visor. You can still see people talking, you can see their expression on their face. I think it's the best way to go when you're in a classroom. Um, Outside, obviously, in the corridors, you have to wear a visor or a mask. But in terms of outdoor areas, you don't need to have your mask on or a visor. That is not required. As for Malta at the moment, the restrictions are you can still go out, you can go to restaurants, you can go to most bars are open, but everybody just carries a mask on them. You won't be allowed into a bar or a restaurant without a mask. Um, but people are, I would say in Malta, people are going about life pretty normally. They just wear a mask. And I think it's fair to say, at least in Malta, the mask or the head visor has clearly allowed us to operate as normal, almost to normality. So it's worked over here for us. I don't know to what extent the weather has made a difference. It's been a very hot summer. I don't think, compared to other countries, I don't know to what extent it really makes a difference, but there's certainly that. So let's begin. Um, there's actually a lot of, at the moment, actually, one more thing. I would say there are quite a lot of Germans actually at school as well, Sandra. So people from students from Germany have still been coming. Some people as well from Italy now and again as well. Of course, South America, it's going to be very difficult at the moment with travel restrictions. So irregular verbs. Now, of course, irregular verbs. This is one where it's not, you don't have your ed ending. So it always can be a little bit difficult. So we're going to look at some today. And we're going to start off, like I said, we're going to start off, well, we'll see how it goes. I think we'll start off slightly at a lower level and we'll work our way up. So we're going to start off with the first one, okay? And the reason why I'm going to start off with this one is partly more to do with the pronunciation than anything else, because it can be confused with another word. So we've got sing, okay? Now this is the verb, not the noun, because you can have a sink where you wash dishes and your hands. This is to sink. So for example, you might say, the sea is too rough. The sea is too rough. We are going to sink, for example. Okay, so my question is, what do you think the three forms of sink are? Okay, all you need to do is write sink, then the past simple, then the past participle. Have a go. Let's see what you come out with before I come in with what the correct answer might be. But one of the reasons why I wanted to look at this one is because of the pronunciation of sink. This word is sometimes confused with the word think. This is because the word think has a TH, and the TH can be a difficult word. So sometimes people end up saying sink. I think it was John, for example, instead of saying I think it was John. So sometimes people who struggle with the TH sound replace the first sound for the sound S. But this is technically wrong, and we should try and avoid it. So Alida has gone with sank and sank, so sink, sank, sank. Irina F has gone with sank, sunk. Okay, let's see if a third one can come in, maybe with the decider. One of the great ways to deal with this is to end up with a song that can help us, and we'll work towards that. So we got sink, sank, sank, or is it sink, sank, sunk? Okay, so let's see. Can someone come in with the decider? Is it sink, sank, sank? Or is it sink, sank, sunk? Sandra has come in with sink, sank, sunk. Alida says, yes, I think Irina is right. Okay, so Alida has changed her mind on this one, and it is correct. It's sink, sank, sunk. Okay, good. Well done. Sink, sank, sunk. I sink, sank, sunk the boat. Okay, good. Well done. So we're off to a good start here. So often we end up thinking about sink being a physical thing, like a boat, for example. We can also sometimes use it with an idea. Well, that idea sunk, for example. Well, that idea sank, for example. Well, that idea sank quickly. So you can use it for an idea sinking, just like a ship sinking into the sinking because it's going down. We can also apply it to other things as well, such as ideas as well. We can also use it for other things as well. So I'm just going to give you some more examples. For instance, actually, we can use it with a business. So if we don't make money soon, we'll sink as well. So you can use it in different contexts. You can use it with a boat actually sinking. You can do it with an idea, and you can also do it with a business concept as well. So it is something that we can use in business English sometimes when we really want to make our point very clear about the way we are doing business. So if we don't make money soon, we'll sink. So that's what we've got off to. And there's 3 different contexts how we can use it. There are probably a lot more, but let's see. Let's continue. So I think what the next one we'll do is we'll go for this one here. And this one is a bit of a strange one. Swell. Okay, so in the continuous, swelling. Okay, so I banged my knee. Oh, not my new? No. That's not correct. There we go. That's better. It's not new. Knee. So I banged my knee. Now, banged is another word for hit my knee, and it is swelling. So, of course, this is when you hurt a part of your body, and that part of the body begins to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So that is swelling. What we need to look at here is what are the 3 forms of swelling or swell. So Sandra's gone in with swell, swelled, swollen. Irina has gone for swell, swelled, swollen. Okay, let's see. Alida, maybe you want to come in here, or maybe Leondina, would you like to come in here? What do you guys think? What do you think the correct answer is? Can we have a third one? Leondina has come in with swelled and swollen. Okay, so you know what? I mean, this is a particularly annoying one, and I'm not going to lie. And the reason is this. You got swell, so that's obviously the first one. Now, I think most of you got the second one right. The second one is swell. Now, what's the last one? Well, this is why this one is particularly annoying, and it's because of what the last one is. Alida has come in with swell, swelled, swollen. The answer is this. And this is why it's a little bit annoying. You have swell, swelled. The last one is usually swollen. However, you have an alternative, which is also swelled. So you can say swell, swelled, swelled, which would then make it a regular verb. But it is also an irregular verb because you have swell, swelled, swollen. Now, in terms of which one we're likely to use, in terms of my own experience, I've always used swell as an irregular verb rather than a regular verb. In my mind, it sounds more natural anyway, to be honest. I don't think I've ever used swelled as a past participle for swell myself. It can be done. Yeah, Alida, technically it is both. However, it's commonly used as an irregular verb rather than a regular verb. So like I said, I would personally stick to swell, swelled, and swollen. That is how most people are going to use it. And I think when it comes to medical matters, I personally have always heard doctors and nurses, in my experience, use the past participle swollen rather than swelled as a past participle. So I would encourage you to still use it as an irregular verb, though technically it is both. So that's the next one. Let's continue. Now, I should actually, before we move on, the main context that we would use this would be for obviously a medical matter like an injury. You can apply it to other contexts, but it's going to have to be in a very sort of what's the best way to do it? Almost like an analogy, I would say. You could use it when you're talking about trying to explain things with an analogy, maybe. But most of the time, this is going to be used in a medical way. Okay, so let's continue and let's see if we can find some more, maybe ones that we haven't looked at. So let's go with this one, and I think go with this one just because of the different contexts that we can use this in. So you're going to go with shrink. I'm going to go first with the first main context with shrink, but then I want to try and expand on it just to see how many different contexts we think we could use this in. So you got shrink, such as I put my top in the, let's go with it. If you put that top in the wash, it will shrink, for example. Okay, so shrink obviously gets smaller. What do you think the past, the second form and the third form are? And then let's experiment with different contexts, because this is going to be important, making sure we can use these irregular verbs in different contexts as well. Okay, so Alida has come in with shrink, shrank, shrunk. Sergio, good afternoon, Sergio, meaning drying. It doesn't mean drying. It's what happens when something gets smaller. Usually we can use it when it comes to clothes. So you might put clothes in the wash, and if you get it wrong, the clothes get smaller. So when the clothes get smaller, you can say shrink, for example. So Irina has gone with shrink, shrank, or shrunk, shrunk. Alida says like sink. The pronunciation is different with this one. So yes, similar spelling, different pronunciation. In sink has a sound. Shrink has this sh sound. Okay, so we need to get shrink, shrink, okay. Leondine has gone for shrank and shrunk. Sergio goes, minimize. Yes. That's one way of thinking about it. So let's see what the correct answer is. Sandra has gone with shrink, shrank, shrunk. Alida says not the pronunciation, the change of vowels. Okay, I see what you mean. Same. Yeah, it's exactly this. If it's to do with the vowel sound of things, then yeah, it's the same. It's the same spelling with the I, with the use of the vowel I. So yeah, in that sense, it's the same. So what is the correct answer here? Well, we've got shrink, shrank, shrunk. So I'm just going to go with. I think most of you got this right. Okay, yeah, I think most of you got this one right. Yeah, shrink, shrank, shrunk. Shrink, shrank, shrunk. I mean, this is a bit of a tongue twister for the sound. We're going to create a little tongue twister for you now using these words that will help. But yeah, so something gets smaller, shrink, shrank, and shrunk. But I want you guys just to think about a different context. We know that something physical can shrink. So we've got clothes that can shrink. But my question is, can a person shrink? Can a person's ego shrink? Can a business shrink? Can an idea shrink? Okay. Those are my questions. Now, if you think it's yes to some, then tell me which ones that you think are yes. If you think it's yes to all, then yeah, just put yes, all, really. I think Sandra means yes to all. It does have a wide context, really. Now, one of the things we haven't looked at so far as well is maybe how we end up linking it in different ways. So we should probably have a look at that. So Sandra says yes, you can, or a person can shrink, an ego can shrink, business can shrink, and an idea shrink. Alida says yes, when they get older, people shrink. Yep, this is true. Absolutely, it certainly can shrink. Sorry, an older person can shrink. Their size can shrink. People can shrink. Good, well done there. Okay, so let's now just look at a little tongue twister for you guys before we move on, because we've looked at a few. We've looked at 3, and they've all start with. You'll see they all start with S. So we've got sink, sank, sunk, swell, swelled, swollen, shrink, shrank, shrunk. Okay, so that's what we've been looking at. Did I make a mistake? I don't think I made a mistake. If I have made it, I don't think I've made a mistake there. Have I? Yes, I have. Sorry, I've just realized I left out an L in swollen. So I'll just do that again, actually. So you might be thinking, okay, how pronunciation wise, how can we do this? Just remember the sink and swell has this sound, while sh has this sh sound. So I'm just going to tell you how you can do this. It's a simple sort of musical beat, really. So you can come up with something like sink, sank, sunk, swelled, swelled, swollen, shrink, shrank, shrunk. But there's a really cool thing we can do in English that sometimes I like to do in lessons, in physical lessons. It's called a jazz chant. Okay, it's called a jazz chant. A jazz chant is when you create almost kind of like a musical rhyme to help you remember things. And I do recommend that when you learn new words, try create your own jazz chant. And if you want to try and create your own jazz chant with some of these, please do and share it with me as well. So I'm going to give you an example. So let's go with, and this, oops, sorry, I pressed enter before. But this is one of the things I would say is you want to play around. Let's say you want to really nail down a specific type. So we could go with, okay, so let's go with this. It's probably a little bit difficult to show actually on YouTube. I'm just realizing. So you're going to have to try and imagine this for a moment. The boat sank after the sea swelled, while I shrank in the corner. It's almost like the start of a story. And this is, by the way, another way that you can use swell. When the sea becomes rough, it swells up. Okay, so you can have a sea swell. So the sea swelled, meaning was getting really rough. So you would then begin to write sentences a little bit like this that might concentrate on the second form. And then you can continue on. I'll give you a little bit more of an example of how this develops. So then you can go on to say, okay. There we go. So you've got this. The boat sank after the sea swelled, while I shrank in the corner. It sunk below the surface, as swollen as that should be as a cut. I had shrunk into the depths. It doesn't quite flow as I was hoping it would do because it's quite difficult to show you guys. I'll see if I can do that again. Because usually I would have this on a slightly different format. So it ends up coming across a little bit different. And I can't get it back because I didn't do it properly. Never mind. I'm not going to waste time on it. My point is this. I tell you what, I need to try and work out, I think, how to do a jazz chant properly through YouTube. But I think I need to wait until I actually sort out my visuals. because this one is quite visual and I don't think I can get it right with the live chat. So I'm going to move past that. Sorry, that was a bit of a fail. But I'll come back to that at a different time. Effectively, what it is you come up with a tune, and you use the words within that tune. I will eventually do a proper jazz chant for you, but I'm going to have to try and think of how to do it properly, because it's not going to work in the live chats. I thought it could, but it definitely doesn't. Never mind. Okay, so let's continue though, nonetheless. And let's move on to a different type of word. Now, this one that I'm going to look at here for you guys is, now we're going to move away from the sounds of S, and this time this. Now, this might be a new word. Flee. What do you guys, first of all, think flee means? So we have, he will flee from the fight. Does it mean A? Or does it mean B? You've got two options. Do you think flee means he will run towards the fight, or he will run away from the fight? Flee. What do you think it means? Sergio has gone for B. He will run away from the fight. Leondina agrees, and so does Alida. Excellent. Well done, guys. Yes, that's exactly it. So, what do you think? Well, I'm going to give you some options because I don't expect you guys to have seen this one before. So, let's see what you guys think. Pokemon help now. Oh, really? So you knew this from Pokemon? Do you think it's flee, flew, flown? Do you think it's... Or do you think it's... Or do you think there's no change? Do you think it's then just flee, flee, flee? So Leondina has gone with fled, fled. So flee, fled, fled. So this is B. Sergio agrees with you that it's B. It's flee, fled, fled. It does, okay, we would usually use it when it comes to confrontation. And it can be any type of confrontation. Alida also agrees B. Yes, that's correct. B is the correct one here. So flee or fled can be used in any sort of confrontation. It's when you go away, when you run away from confrontation rather than towards it. And it can be in any situation. It doesn't have to be, sort of, guns or swords sort of thing. Okay, let's look at the next one. And this one could be, I think this one is always a good one to know. We're going to go with grind. Okay, so you need to grind the garlic, for example. Now, we can use this in different contexts, but this is one example. You need to grind the garlic. Now, what does this mean? Does it mean A, to crush, or B, does it mean to chop? So you need to grind the garlic. Now, you can do different forms of grinding. Of course, you can, there's different things you can grind, but I think food is always a good one to start off with this type of verb. You need to grind the garlic. So do you think this means to crush? So this would be crush, or do you think it means to chop? So Leondina has gone for B, chop. So don't forget, guys, what is chop? Chop would be, chop is a cutting action, but it's not a, action. It's a synonym of cut, really. So just like you would cut onions, you would say chop onions. Sandra says A. Okay. So what do you think, Alida? Do you think grind means to, let's say you've got garlic. Do you think it means to crush the garlic, or do you think it means to cut or cut up, chop the garlic? You can have chop up, just as you can have cut up. Okay. Alida's gone for A, and Sergio agrees with A. To crush, yes, that's exactly what it is. Grind is to crush something. You can grind someone mentally, and you can grind something physically as well. It's a crushing action, whether it's physically or mentally. So, what do we think the alternatives are? How does this develop? So, we've got, is it A? Is it grind, grind, grind? Is it B? Grind, ground. Groon, or is it C? Grind, ground. Ground. What do you guys think? Is it A, B, or C? Grind, grind, grind. Is it grind, ground, groon, or is it grind, ground, ground? All of you are going for C, and that is the correct answer. Good, well done. So now we're just going to have a little look to see how you guys can complete this following sentence or sentences, and you need to choose the right synonym. So here we're just going to look at, actually we have time for one more. So I'm going to do one more before the final activity, and then we'll look at this actual paragraph that I would like to look at. So the last one that we'll look at is this. There we go. So this one is strike. So maybe you might say, don't strike him in the face. What do we think strike is? Does it mean A, slap? B, oops. Does it mean to laugh? Or does it mean C? Which is hit or punch. Irina for the previous one said C. Grind, ground, ground. That is correct. So you got these three options. Don't strike him in the face. Is it a slap? Is it a laugh? Or is it a hit or punch? Sergio thinks it's C. So, and Leondina agrees that she thinks it's C. So she thinks it's C. So hit, which is more like a punch. In this case, Sandra also agrees, yes. And this is another word for hit. It's some kind of hit. It doesn't always have to be a punch. It's some form of contact, like a hit. You can use it in different contexts. You could use it with your fist. You could use it with a ball. You could use it with a bat. Many different ways that you could use this. So the question is, how does it go through the different three forms of the word? Is it strike, struck, struck? Is it good? Is it strike, struck, struck? What do you think? A or B? Strike, struck, struck, or strike, struck, struck? What do you guys think? The first one, says Sandra. Do you guys agree with Sandra? Is it the first one? Arena agrees. Alida also agrees. Yes, that is correct. So we've now got flee, grind, and struck. Sorry, strike, I should have said. So you guys now need to complete the following sentences. And you need to try and use, those are your three choices, but you need to think of which form you need to use them in. Okay. Before the meeting, he something. Because I was going to something. I could have, if he were in the room. What do you guys think? So you need to think about flee, grind, strike, flee, grind, strike. You need to think of the form of the word, and you need to think about which ones you're going to use. You can use all of them once. I think you're only going to be able to use all of them once properly, though. So if you're trying to play around too much, it might become a little bit difficult. Let's see what you guys come up with. So we've got flee, grind, struck. Let's try strike. Because I wrote the past participle already. Flee, grind, strike. Flee, grind, strike. So those are your options. Let's see if you guys can complete this, these two sentences here. Just to remind you, tomorrow is Thursday, and tomorrow we're going to look at use different words. In this lesson, we're going to look at trying to expand our vocabulary, and we're going to look at making effectively how we don't repeat ourselves when writing or speaking. So that's tomorrow, and then Friday will be English for work. And we're going to look at something called market trends, very much English for work / business English. So that will be for Friday. As for this one, let's see what you guys come up with here as we come to the close to the end of the lesson. Leondina thinks it's fled, grind, struck. So before the meeting, he fled because I was going to grind him into the floor. I could have struck if he were in the room. Okay, and Sergio says, before the meeting, he fled because I was going to strike him to the floor. I could have ground if he were in the room. Okay, I'm going to wait to see if anyone else comes out with an idea here. Alida has gone with the same answer as Sergio. Fled, strike, and ground. Okay, so the correct answer would be before the meeting, he fled. So I think you all got that one correct there. That's number one. Because I was going to... Now, you could say strike him to the floor. That would make sense. It's a question of whether the last one would make sense with ground. Now, I could have struck if he were in the room. Yep, that would work. I could have ground if he were in the room. And I can't use ground. I need... we can look at these type of verbs here, but ground, actually, we need a little bit more. For instance, I could have ground his bones, for example, if he were in the room. Effectively, what I'm saying is ground is a transitive verb. We can look at intransitive and transitive verbs. But when we use ground, we always need to link it to a noun. Strike, we do not need to link to a noun. And actually, that could be a good one for next week. I'll make a note of that. I need to try and remember that actually. Transitive and intransitive verbs. I don't think I've done that one. So transitive / intransitive verbs. This is a really good one to do. I will look at that next week. But ground is a transitive verb, so it always needs an object. It needs a noun, which we don't have here. Strike could be used. So it then follows that grind is number 2 and struck is number 3. So it should read, before the meeting, he fled because I was going to grind him to the floor. I could have struck if he were in the room. Struck can also not mean, doesn't necessarily just mean hit physically. It struck could have been like make your move. So if you say I wanted to strike, for example, I wanted to make my move. So you can use it, for instance, in a game of cards. You can use it in a game of chess. You can use it with a strategy of some kind. It's to make your move. So you've got the physical action of hitting, and then you've got the other type of action of making your move. So it's got a few different contexts. I probably should have gone into a little bit more depth on that one. But next week, I will look at transitive and intransitive verbs. It's a really important one to know because, like I said, grind is a transitive verb. It needs an object, so some kind of noun afterwards, while strike is an intransitive verb because we don't always, it doesn't need to have something physical. Sorry, it doesn't need to have an object or a noun afterwards. We can simply say, I struck. So we don't need to add more language. So that would be a good lesson to do, and I will do that next week. A big thank you to all of you. Thank you very much for watching today. So a big thank you to Alida, Sergio, Leondina, Arena F, Sandra. Thank you all for joining the lesson today and taking part. Apologies for the Chaz chant because it really didn't work. I need to work on that one. I won't attempt that again until I think I have some proper visuals set up, I think, for that one. But thank you very much nonetheless. Sergio says, many thanks, Richard. Your class is amazing. Oh, thank you very much, Sergio. Much appreciated, and see you too. Leodina says thank you, and Alida says thank you. See you. And that's a lovely emoji. And Irina says thanks, Richard. And Sandra says good evening. So thank you to all of you. Have a good evening. Stay safe. And I will be back tomorrow, same time, 4 o'clock, where we are going to look at how you guys can develop your English, build your language, and not always end up using the same words when trying to explain yourself as well. So thank you very much. Take care and see you tomorrow. Bye for now.